Okay, welcome back to more author interviews at Crystal Lake, and today we're talking to the authors of Dark Tide 12, F.U.B.B, because I'm not going to say what that stands for out loud on YouTube because they might just get mad at us. And we have two authors here today instead of three because Jasper Bark, who's the third author, is not feeling well at the moment, so we've excused him from the interview. But you can listen to his podcast interview coming up in April, which is interesting and very entertaining. I'll let the two authors we have today introduce themselves. Candace, you go first.
I am Candace Nola. I'm an author from Pittsburgh, the creator of Uncomfortably Dark, and have multiple um, stories and books out there now. And this will be my first publication with Crystal Lake.
Okay, Daniel, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Daniel J. Volpe. I'm a writer out of New York, and my best known work is Talia and Left to You. Last year, actually this year, no, last year, I won the Splatterpunk Award for the best novella with my book Plastic Monsters, and I'm very happy to be here and excited to work with Crystal Lake.
Great. So, how did you both get involved in the project?
Are you going to go? I'll go first.
Like,
Jasper originally reached out to me and he told me the premise that Crystal Lake was putting forth, and I had seen some of the Dark Tide books in the past as they were starting to come out, and he asked if I wanted to be a part of it, and I was happy to join up. Crystal Lake has put out some great books in the past, so it's definitely a publication I want to work with, and it just seemed to work out, and the rest is history, I guess.
Okay, so how about you, Candace? How'd you get involved?
Um, Jasper also had contacted me to see if I wanted to join up, and it's Crystal Lake, and the Dark Tide books have been amazing. So of course I was like, absolutely. So here we are.
Okay, so give everyone a little preview of what your novel's about.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mine is the Chatter of Night Bugs, and it's very, very hardcore. So I'll start. I'll preface with that. It starts off with three individuals in kind of a backwoods setting, and they are making weird kind of snuff films, and they're giving them to moonshiners. Who the moonshiners are then distributing them out to certain seedy individuals. At one point in time, my main characters they pick up the wrong person and they do something to this individual they shouldn't do, and they invoke some kind of. I'm not going to reveal what it is, but they invoke something that they don't like, and this entity, we'll call it, is out seeking revenge, and it is graphic, it is sexual, it is violent, and it is everything readers of my work and Candace's work have come to, and Jasper's obviously have come to enjoy about our fiction. So I think people will really really like it. It's fast paced, hardcore, and brutal.
Sounds like fun. And I don't think I want to ask about the bugs because I'm pretty sure that
Oh, there are bugs. There are
yeah.
lots of bugs.
There are.
Okay, so what's your novella about, Candace?
Mine is called Double Feature. Sorry, I stutter, so bear with
Okay.
me. Mine is sort of a 80s cheesy B movie, just all out gore fest. And it's set in a small town that is basically at the end of their rope. Like there's no jobs, there's no work, really not a lot of nothing left there to do. And up in the hills, there's a family of questionable individuals that happen to live close to the local drive-in, which is the only thing left there for the kids. And there's some disappearances that the town is concerned about, and one night at the drive-in, the family up in the hills decides to come on down and take in the movie with the rest of the town. Bad things, a lot of bad things happen. And I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, well, that's what makes a good horror book is the bad things happen. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so if I'm pretty sure the viewers now have gathered that this anthology is of theme is hardcore horror. So what were your inspirations for your stories? Where did you get your ideas?
Well, mine, I grew up watching those types of like 80s horror, just the cheesy B movies and just blood and gore everywhere. And I just thought they were great. And when I heard what Crystal Lake had in mind for this one, I had this idea already in mind. And I was like, that could work. So I took my love of the cheesy and the bloody and the small towns combined with the drive-ins, which is one of the things that I grew up on. Like we had one a mile down the road, and we were there every weekend. So I was like, I could combine this and see what happens. And well, I liked what happened. So
Okay, so what were your inspirations, Daniel?
Um, I I love like if anybody's ever read any of my stuff, I love like the hyper sexualized and violence in some of the books that I write and I read. So I kind of want to do something like that, but I also like to turn things on its head and to completely flip things around. So in some of my books, it'll start off very normal, very let's say not non-paranormal, and then in the middle of the book, I'll be like, all right, here's a paranormal element. So I always wanted to do something with that, and I like monsters too. So I really haven't done a monster kind of story yet. And with this one, I was like, I want to try something. I had an idea, and for it's kind of like these hillbilly snuff films, and I was like, what if this happened? And it just kind of went from there. And I grew up in the woods and playing with bugs, and like most boys my age, and some of the girls I grew up with too, and in the streams catching everything. So I was kind of thought like I want to do something with bugs because most people don't like the creepy crawlies. So I'm like, let's make them uncomfortable.
Okay, so Daniel's already pretty much answered the first part of this question, but we'll go with it. What was the first time? Was this your first time playing with the hardcore horror, or are you old hand at the subgenre? And what appeals to you about writing in the darker and pushing boundaries of horror?
No, this definitely isn't my first rodeo into the hardcore. I like the fact that with the hardcore horror, I don't have to hide anything. I can show the the visceralness of a murder, of a death, of sex, of all of that stuff. Whereas some more tamer horror would kind of cut things out and say, so and so was shot and they died. I like to give you that full representation of detail because death and or murder and sex, neither of which are clean. They're both messy in real life. So I always want to kind of portray that in my horror. So that's kind of why I like writing in that more hardcore aspect. I generally won't do gross out for gross out's sake. It's always substance. It has to be based on something and to really propel the story forward. And if I can use that hardcore element to propel the story, then I absolutely will.
Okay. So what about you, Candace? Your first time, or you done it before?
no, I've been writing the more hardcore and extreme pretty much since I came out. About a year after I published my first couple of books, then I kind of went into the extreme and the splatter punk. I think my first attempt was just to see if I could, like, how I would feel about writing that, and turns out I liked it and I'm pretty good at it. So now I kind of write a mix of the hardcore and the splatterpunk and the extreme, as well as the mainstream and the general, because I kind of want to have that wider appeal to anyone who reads it. So I do a little of this and a little of that, you know.
Okay, so what appeals to you about writing the hardcore stuff?
What appeals to me? I like the fact that, like Daniel had said, you don't have to hide it. I want to kind of know what it looks like. I want to see the blood and I want to know what it smells like. I want to know what it felt like. I want to be able to see that on the page. Like, I don't want it to just be glazed over. Like, oh, he died. Well, how? What did it look like? What did the bullet hole look like? I just I like the fact that I can add that extremely visceral imagery to what I write and actually put the person into the environment. Like, you're in it. You're not just standing by watching from afar. You're actually standing there looking at the corpse. So, yeah.
Yeah, that can be fun. So when you're writing the hardcore horror, do you ever find yourself second guessing how far you're pushing the story, or do you just let it all hang out and then fix anything that needs fixing in editing?
Nah, I just write it. I write what it needs. I do not add things just for the sake of, oh, let's make it bloodier, or let's add this just because. I write what it needs, and that's it. But I don't worry about, is it going to be too much for this person or that person. If you read my work, you know what I write, you know what to expect. And if you pick up one of my extreme works, you know what it is. So, no, I don't worry about it. I just write what it needs.
Yeah, I tend to kind of agree with Candace on that. I'll write what the story calls for, and then on edits, I might tweak some things. Like if I know a certain scene needs a little something extra on edits, but it's just not coming to me right then and there in the first draft, I'll pick it up when I get back to it. Or if there's something that is a little too much, like I have one scene in particular in Talia that I end up cutting. Actually, I shared it with. I think I talked to Candace early on when Talia was coming out. And I ended up cutting that scene down quite a bit because I realized it wasn't necessary to propel the story. And it was just gratuitous at the time. And I was like, you know what? It's not going to make the story any better. It's not going to make it any worse. It was just gratuitous. So I was like, you know, I'm going to trim it out. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think readers will enjoy most about your novella?
um, mine's got some pretty smutty sex scenes in it. They'll probably like that because I do write I do write a lot of that. I actually have a secret erotica pen name that I've never shared with anybody, but it's out there. So I do enjoy that stuff. I do have some pretty creative kills, and my monster is pretty cool. So I think people are really going to like it from beginning to end. There's really not a dull moment in it. It just kind of
Okay.
it starts out revved up, and it doesn't stop until the last line.
Yeah, pretty smutty sex scenes is a very good marketing ploy there.
Yeah. I don't play around with that. I love it. So
Okay, so what about you, Candace? What do you think readers will enjoy most?
I think for the most part, they'll like the 80s vibe and that whole like cheesy, bloody, gory. The rednecks that I wrote are kind of like spot on, and there's some lines in there that I think will make some folks laugh. There's definitely some scenes that will make some people cringe. So I just think it's a lot of fun. There's definitely the horror element there, but I think it's more of a fun style, more so than you're going to be looking behind your shoulder. Like, it's just a lot of blood and a lot of fun. So,
Okay, great. So, what were the most difficult parts of writing the novella? Did you get stuck on anything, have trouble with the character, or did you have easygoing for writing the whole thing?
honestly, for me, it actually went pretty smoothly as far as I remember. I think it didn't take me very long to knock it out. Actually, no, let me take that back. I actually started a separate novella for this, and I got about 13,000 words into it, and I realized that this was not working out for what the parameters that Crystal Lake had set. The story I was writing was going to end up probably being novel length, and I didn't like the area it was going. So I had reached out to Jasper and just kind of told him, like, listen, I'm going to need a little extra time, which I write pretty quickly. So I really didn't need the extra time, but I scrapped my original idea. And this one I kind of had sitting in the back of my head. And I just put it on paper as quick as I could. And it actually came out of me pretty quickly and easily. So, which is great because the other one was really bogging me down, which sucked. But this one worked well.
Okay.
I don't think I struggled with mine so much as I think the hardest part for me was how to end it. I had the plot line in mind for maybe a month or two before I was approached about it, so I kind of knew who was going to be in it and how it was all going to unfold. But the original ending I had in mind didn't work for what we were going for the hardcore. So I wanted to find a way to make it very extreme and very hardcore at the end and add that twist right at the end of it too that hopefully nobody saw in the works. So I did kind of struggle with how to close it all out and have the impact that I wanted. And I think that took me the longest part. So I got through it pretty quickly until maybe the last 4,000 words or so, right at that end. And then it worked out. So.
Okay. So what was the favorite part of writing your story for you? Is there a scene or a character that you really enjoyed?
For me, it was the monster. Like I loved. It was very unique. I've never done anything like it before, and I mean, it was just fun to play around with, and I really had no rules because it was a made up creature. So yeah, the kill scenes with the monster are probably my favorite part.
Yeah, kill scenes are fun too.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Candace? What's your favorite part of writing the novella?
One of the rednecks, he has a particular quirk that came from nowhere, and I added that in there, and it's definitely gonna make some folks cringe, but I put it in there a couple of times, and it just made me laugh because I don't think people are going to be expecting it. And I really don't think it's been written before, at least not this particular kink. So, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and that's a teaser for the book right there. Find out what the kink is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it about horror in general that appeals to you as a writer?
Oh man, all of it. Um, I tend to always gravitate towards that part of life. Like even when I was a kid, it was all the horror and the Hitchcock and the Edgar Allan Poe and all the dark stuff. And I grew up watching horror movies. I grew up on the B movies and Nightmare on Elm Street and The Thing. And my mom and dad were just very much into horror and haunted houses and Halloween. And like it was just, it's where I live. It's where I was raised. It's who I am. So that was it.
Okay, what about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I've loved it ever since I was a kid. I think it's kind of the adrenaline rush of being scared. Um, I've always kind of grew up with that from watching like Are You Afraid of the Dark when I was young, and just watching horror movies I probably shouldn't have watched at ages I was probably too young. My parents really didn't filter much of what I watched. They kind of would let me watch what I wanted for the most part. But my dad was a reader, and he worked a midnight shift in a jail, and he would read Stephen King a lot. And when he'd come home from work at 8 o'clock in the morning, his book would be sitting on the kitchen table, and it always kind of fascinated me to see these books. And when I started reading like Goosebumps and stuff, I quickly gravitated towards older horror. I enjoyed the stuff that was age appropriate, but I had a fairly high reading level at a young age, and I just loved being scared. And then when I found out I had the ability to scare other people, it was even better. And now people pay me to do it, which is even better than that. So it's great.
Okay, so what are you currently working on, and what's next for you?
Go ahead, Candace. You want to go first?
Yeah. Let me see. I am working on the third installment of my Bishop story with my co-author. I'm also working on the first release for the Uncomfortably Dark publishing house, which I opened over the winter. And I have a collection in the works that's getting ready to come out in July. So there's a
Hmm.
few things.
Yeah.
Sounds like we have a lot to look forward to. So, what about you, Daniel? What are you working on? What's coming up for you?
Actually, the day this book releases, I have another book coming out, Through the Eyes of Desperation, the black version that Aaron Beauregard and I each wrote a book. He wrote the red version, I wrote the black version. They're kind of um, two completely separate stories that take place during the same time with some of the same characters, with some overlapping um, scenes and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun to work on. That's a full length novel. The prequel to one of my popular novels, Left to You, is coming out, and that's called For the Better. I'm going to have that out for AuthorCon. I just got some proofs to that in the other day, and it's outstanding. And I'm actually about to finish up writing a novelette that I did with my 9-year-old daughter because she loves scary things. Um, so she had this idea, and she's like, "I want to write this book. I want to do this book." So I was like, "Okay." So I've pretty much been writing that. I say with her mostly. It's me. She gives me a couple ideas here and there. So I'm just about wrapped up with that, and I'm gonna have that illustrated for her because she wants it illustrated, and she's my baby, so she gets what she wants. So I'll have that coming out soon. Probably have that out. We have a local fall festival, so I'd like to have it out by September, so that way she can show all her friends and sell it to her teachers and stuff. I mean, hopefully make her a couple bucks. So
Oh, that's cool. So,
yeah,
anyway, that's it for the interview. And I'd like to thank you both for being here and being the guest today. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
Had a great time.
Okay, and you can tell everybody where they can find you and your books.
You can find me at Uncomfortably Dark. My stories are sold on Amazon right now and pretty much all the other platforms. So, yep.
Okay.
Yep, I'm on Amazon, and I have my own website, djvhorror.com. I sell all of my books there, signed. Comes with a bunch of swag. I got all this stuff sitting next to my desk that I keep all here. Tons of cool stuff. I'm on every social media platform, just about. Mainly Facebook and TikTok are my biggest ones. So if anyone wants to DM me, feel free. I'm always open to chat for the most part. So, yep, Amazon and my website.
Okay, and you can find the link to Dark Tide 14 in the description below. That's it for this episode. So, bye for now.